What's up, guys? It's been a little bit since I made a video. I just wanted to get this out there because we are getting into some critical areas in the market here. So right now, let's look at SPY to start off. Hopefully this video can get out before any of this potentially happens. So as we know on SPY, we had 393.50 to 393.30, which was a critical level. You can see the perfect rejection here. Boom, 393.50. Rejected, came back down. This was more of a bullish pattern. You can see, nice bullish run. Then we fell all the way down where we found support at 386.25. This is my favorite level here, still on the SPY. That's where I'm going to keep it. And then we rallied up. And then we came back down. We rejected it. We came down, but we made a higher low. We ripped up. So this was another rejection up here at 400. And then we rallied up. Now we broke it. Here we came down. This is where the wick was. Wick was to 292.35. That's roughly where we are right now. Candle body closed below but bought back up. There's something right there. Excuse this stupid little ad that keeps popping up. Then we rallied all the way off it. We hit resistance. We came down. We hit resistance again. So to me, this is a downtrending resistance line. I think usually when you hit it for a third touch, that'll cause a rejection. Does it come back down, eventually make a double bottom, break through, back test it or whatever, or just make a nice bullish pattern here, back test some of that and then rally? That's possible as well. If we do end up doing something like this, that would mean that potentially if we are going to do something like that, then this next rejection will be critical, but the next pullback could be something to potentially buy. But we are still hovering right around where we previously wicked. Right up here at about 393.23 or so. We haven't quite made it there. So I think we could still have some more room here to the upside. You can see on the 1 minute, we are just kind of putting in this small little double top. We did hit that 393. I think we come back up a little bit higher here. The highest I could see us going is maybe 394.12-ish. So we could still have room to go on the upside, depending on how this plays out. Not sure where the sellers are going to really step in, but right now the buyers are remaining strong currently. If we put this here, this is just a 1 minute pattern, so take it with a grain of salt, of course. Maybe we have like a rising channel here that we just continue to respect and bounce in between it until we hit that target, and then maybe we have a breakdown here. And then we'll have to see how it plays out on the way down. How far down do we go? Do we have to retest some of this previous chop here? Do we just come down and only retest some of these candles? That's something that's still up for interpretation. Depending, if we do, 389.63 could just be as low as we end up going, and that finds the bounce. That is possible as well. So I am looking for a potential dump later on here, but I think we might still have room here to keep on climbing up till we get to some of these resistances on SPY here, and then we'll look for the back test. So like I said, maybe it just rejects us to here and then we end up rallying back up and making a higher low. That's possible too. So, overall, with the rate hikes potentially getting paused here in the coming 9 days when we have our data, CPI kind of came in at the expected level. The banks are all kind of doing what they're doing, which is causing the Fed to have to potentially pivot, which could actually be bullish for the stock market here. So with all of this resistance above, we could still have some last minute selling that comes in, and then the next dip ends up being the one to sell. Here's the Nasdaq, similar thing. We had this previous key resistance rejected there. It was previous support. You can see this beautiful wick that came down. It also goes up to as high as the 235s or so. Same with this wick here that rejected 248. So somewhere in that range. But this downtrending resistance line right now, we had that high, that wick there, which actually is not drawn in here actually perfect just yet. Think about right there. Yep, so right about there. Then we flip down to the 1 minute. Let's take a closer look at where that resistance is. So my first key level is the 200. That could be potentially something to look at, but I think that we're going to go as high as like 12,216 potentially as we're continuing on this uptrend. We just have to watch the uptrending support that is still here. Roughly something like that for now. So this could be the uptrending support, and then this could be potentially the resistance or so. Yeah, something like that, which could still just travel us up. I mean, I don't know how high it's going to go, but my idea is that we get rejection somewhere at this 12,215 or so. That's my idea. We'll see how it plays out. And then let's look at Tesla right now. So Tesla is at around 181. So on the hour, well, this is the 1 minute. Hold on a second. On the hourly, we have all of this previous rounding top action that did break down when we lost 188.65. That was probably the best area to have the short position in. And we came down and we found a low all the way down here at roughly the 164. So yes, at 164, a little bit higher than this previous wick that went down to 62s, but that was some decent support, as well as what we had talked about previously around this support here of the 168.85 or so, $168. That ended up being pretty much critical support, even though we wicked below. We didn't close any candle bodies below it. Let's see, where was I? Oh yeah, so I was looking at this downtrending resistance. We had multiple tests of this wicks. We came down, we found support on the 88s, came up, found resistance on it, came down, found support on the 88s, came up, pretty much rejected off it. Then we started our downtrend, and now since we found this potential low here, we have now rallied all the way up here. So as we're getting into some critical potential resistance, this is where we need to pay attention. So right now, looking at the 1 minute chart, you can see that as of right now, it's trying to potentially have a little bit of a break, but whether or not this pattern ends up being, I don't even know if this pattern here on the 1 minute is going to matter or not. But right now we're kind of just hitting this 1 minute downtrending resistance that I kind of have in here. It's not actually drawn that good, so maybe that is what it is. Let's see, off of here, off of that wick, off of this wick, yeah, so like that. So wick. So right now we just hit it again. That's around 181.14, and then above that, if we do kind of go up a little higher, then we have this downtrending resistance off the 1 hour at 181.60. That's the level for me to watch. And then another idea that I have, however, although a break of 181.60 could end up being a bullish thing, because this could be just making a descending triangle as a flat bottom, or it could be potentially a little bit of a symmetrical triangle right here on the 1 minute, which could end up pushing us up a lot higher if this does end up breaking the 181.62. The next key level for me will probably be all the way up here at 183. And then if we close above 183 and we actually started chopping above this as support, then I'm going to be looking up for 188.65. So we're kind of in a pretty critical area for Tesla. It is consolidating after a very large push up here, but at the same time, as we are looking kind of bullish on the smaller time frames, like I said, we could be also sitting at some pretty heavy downtrending resistance possibly. So that's kind of where I'm at, as well as this previous range here, which was right here from 182.50-ish, just off some wicks, down to the 180.11. So we're kind of like chilling at this previous zone. Was it 180.11? Or, 179.95. So whether or not this still has to come up a little higher just to breach and hit the 182.67 to 182.55, that's, I guess we'll have to figure that out. And that would still potentially confirm this little idea that I have of this being maybe a rising wedge. But I don't know for sure on that. That's just my idea. So yesterday I was calling bullish in my on my trading view here as I was looking down at this inverse head and shoulders. It's just small on the 15-minute, but it did play out pretty nicely, where you have your left shoulder, your head, what was it even there? And your little right shoulder right here. And then we came down for the back test of it right here, and then we rallied up. So if you were to take a measured target, it's from here to the bottom. So with that being said, this thing has a target of 184.71. So is this just making a bull flag here to continue up? That is very possible. So it's kind of like, is it really smart to start shorting here? Probably not. I think the way that we would have to potentially do this would be, because look, target of this potential bull flag is almost to that 188.65. So these measured moves are making sense to me, even though I see this potential of this downtrending resistance being a struggle. But the buyers are holding the price up right now. So this might actually end up being a bullish breakout here. We might actually want to flip long on Tesla now that I'm looking at it. But I'm just going to keep an eye on that 181.62. And unless you can close above that, you kind of have to say, all right, this is still going to remain potentially bearish here. But we'll have to see. Maybe the market's more bullish than I'm expecting here, because a test of 188.65 would probably be the most reasonable and, you know, the best thing that would make the most sense in this market right now, as that was very strong support. So for it to come back to that level wouldn't be too bad of a look. So I'm just going to be cautious with this one. I'm not even sure what I'm going to do yet, but I guess this would be the play. If we come down and we break below 179 and we back test it as resistance, that might be potentially the short, but at the same time, we have this uptrending support here, which depending on how fast or how this plays out, if it did come back down here from this and it made like a little head and shoulders pattern, broke this, came down, this might be the support to potentially buy, which could line up here with the 176.81. And if we came straight down from where we are right now, back down here, it's at 176.14, which was kind of like right here where we were chopping around trying to hold it as support. Then we failed it. We double bottomed. We ripped through. So maybe price would have to come back down and retest that support again at 176, which was resistance before. So that's a possible scenario. And if that happens, then you'd take the short off the 79, take your profits at the 176, and then probably potentially might want to close it, because if we are going to just get bullish here and have one last dip buy for everyone before we rocket up to 188s, then that'll be the short up here. So I don't know how it's going to play out yet. I am just kind of watching this 1 hour trend line, watching the rest of the market here. And if SPY does, see now SPY's starting to push. So if SPY does end up pushing and getting, I like that 373.25 or 373.30. That was always one of my key resistances. So I guess we'll have to watch SPY, but it could get above here and then continue up here all the way up to this point as well. But this is probably going to be an area that sellers will be potentially trying to step in. And any higher than that pretty much brings you up, 79s, 85s, and then 394. So this is all like coming back to potentially key resistance, and maybe it's going to flip it into, previous key support, it's going to flip it into new resistance. I don't know yet. So, this is a nice rounding bottom here on the hourly. So just be cautious out there. It's definitely tricky. I don't know if we're going to quite be looking for shorts yet. You don't really want to step in front of a moving train, but nvda was something that we were calling short previously. Now that we've kind of came down here and came to some lows again, it kind of gave me a little bit of an idea of like, I kind of drew it in as like a rising wedge. And then also if you look on the 4 hourly, because I cleaned up my chart a little bit, you can see that the previous uptrending support for nvda was roughly, around this level, bounce. Could be a little bit higher, but I kind of went off of this wick here, where if we actually maybe moved it up a little bit, to like here and called this the uptrending support, maybe you have a little bit more touches on it. You might want to go off of those 3. So hold on a second, sorry. I just want to have this kind of accurate. I mean, that would be way up there. Well, anyway, obviously it's an uptrending support, so it's kind of hard to say for sure. That had the wick there, that had the wick there. But anyway, that's going to be a trickier trade. But what we do know is this potential resistance right here came down to support, bounced up, found resistance there, fell down, found support here. So if we ripped up here and we actually do make a new high here on the move, then NVDA potentially could come up to, I kind of want that to be perfect on those 2 wicks at least, because you have 1 wick, 2 wick. If this continued up, then you could be actually coming up here to about 147.20 today. So that's something to consider as this thing is rallying, but we still have to watch the same previous area that was having a hard time getting above, which was a high of 343.40, but then we had a previous range. Well, that top wick was 141.17. I think 142.50 was kind of like somewhat of a key area, but where we're at right now is kind of right here, like right in this range. We popped up, where was that? 242. Couldn't close a candle above, rejected, came back up, back tested with a higher low, right around 241.23. Then when we broke through it, tried to hold it as support, lost it, we fell all the way back down. Now you're kind of back at that range, popping above here. So it is actually above it as of right now. So we kind of have to just see, it's making like quite a few tops right here on the 1 minute. So maybe that'll be 141.50. So if we do reject here and then we come back down, we have an area down here that would probably be the short entry would be right here. If we break below 239.58 and flip it back into resistance, then we could potentially look to drop it back down into the 234.82 or the previous high of 235. Where was it? Right here. Actually, that's pretty good support. 235.60 if we do end up rejecting here. And then on the 1 minute, you can kind of confirm this with just a little bit of a rising support here. So maybe if you break this rising support, you back test it, you get back under it, then you could fall all the way back down here. So getting into some shorts might not be too bad of an idea at that point. Just keep an eye on this 241.50-ish, because breaking above it, you have a lot of room to the upside, whereas the downside isn't as good right now, but we just have to watch the market. So, we're on the edge of like potentially doing something pretty bullish, but at the same time, I don't think we're just going to go and just start ripping to new highs here. I think that where we're at is actually not a bad spot to start considering some short positions and just taking that chance that like, hey, I think the market is going to still continue to sell off here. I don't think that stuff has changed enough to like come in here and say like, we're just going to moon now. But then again, the CPI could be where that does happen. And maybe we just need to do some more bearish things first. I don't know how it's going to play out, guys. So I'm just trying to trade this short term. I'm not really like that good at calling where we're going to be in like 2 months from now, So I just wanted to put this on everyone's radar. And I hope you guys have a great day. And good luck with your trades today. I'm going to be getting into some shorts here very soon, and I'm going to stick with my ideas, and I'm going to stop out if we start breaking above those key levels that we just talked about. So Tesla above, 180, 250, 183 probably, with a high of, if you want to hold it that long, with a high of, 183-ish, 183.20, something like that. If you start closing above that, then you have to flip out of your position. But yeah, I hope you guys have a good day, and I hope this all makes sense. Peace.